you get to go to heaven. And this writer saying, no. Don't you understand where you came from? Isn't it interesting how the plight of these Hebrew people in bondage, right, in Egypt, and you follow their story time after time after time after time, and all they keep doing is saying, hey, shouldn't we go back? Shouldn't we go back to that worst time? No. We don't need to go back. 2,000 years later, we're still dealing with this same concept. Shouldn't we go back? Shouldn't we go back to that worst time? No, we absolutely shouldn't. So this book of Hebrews is written very logically. I love that. I love plain logic that when you read it, you go, oh, well, that makes all the sense in the world. So we look at this concept of law versus grace. And we believers, even though we're 2,000 years removed from this situation, we need to dig into this because we blow it. Law versus grace. In the Old Testament, to go to heaven, you had to follow what we're going to call Levitical laws. 613 things that were written down in such a way that if you followed those to the very best of your ability and you sold yourself as a slave to those rules, maybe, just maybe, you would be judged worthy and you would get to go to heaven. Levitical laws. But as you can tell in this passage of Scripture, this all it does is create guilt, right? We're going to talk about that a lot later. But Jesus comes along and he sets a new standard, a new beginning of grace, where following Christ's example, where he was the sacrifice, that grace and mercy allows us to be with him forever. And as a result, all those Levitical laws, those Old Testament laws, as a result, they don't apply anymore. As a result, we get to eat pigs. That's great. We get to touch pigs. We can cut our hair on the sides as a result of grace. We can get tattoos. We can eat a bat. Not the bat, the bat. Listen, that doesn't mean we should do these things, but you can. You understand there are all these crazy concepts that we have been lifted from because of grace. And then we look at this and we see in verse 1, there's a real telling verse 1. The law, listen to this, the law is only a shadow of the good things coming. Did you guys catch that? The law is just a shadow of the good things coming. Now, if you'll remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Jesus, God. Jesus is God. Jesus is God. The human Jesus is the same God as the God the Father, right? And we talked at length about the concept that, or the illustration I used, I talked of the invisible God. And I understand that we kind of struggle with that. I remember being a young pastor many, many years ago, and I served in a church, and a good friend of mine asked me a simple question, but it's not. So your pastor, does he teach law or grace? And that kind of threw me off because I understood the concept of grace. Most people who don't truly, the temper